There is something Napoleon Hill discovered after studying more than 20,000 people, something he never expected to find when he began that research. He expected to find differences. He expected that every successful person had a unique path, a different story, a special talent that others simply did not have. But what he found was the opposite. The ones who failed followed patterns, repeated patterns, silent patterns, patterns those people carried without ever realizing it. And he identified 3 specific types of person who, no matter how hard they tried, no matter how much effort they put in, never managed to build real wealth. The question that matters right now is simple. Are you one of those types? And before you answer no automatically, understand this. Most people who fit these profiles never realize they are inside them because the pattern does not appear on the surface. It operates underneath everything, underneath your decisions, underneath your reactions, underneath the way you think about your future when you are alone and no one is watching. And in this video, you are going to understand exactly what each of these 3 types looks like. More importantly, you are going to understand how to get out, because Hill did not only identify these patterns, he showed the way out, and that way out is what changes everything. When Andrew Carnegie asked Napoleon Hill to study the wealthiest and most successful men in history, the missions seemed straightforward. Find the formula for success. But Hill went deeper than any researcher had gone before. He did not only study the ones who made it, he studied the ones who tried and never did. And it was in that contrast where the real discovery happened. Because when you place side by side people with similar opportunities, similar intelligence, similar effort, and one builds wealth while the other spends an entire lifetime trying, the difference is not in what they do, it is in what they carry inside. And after analyzing more than 20,000 cases over more than 2 decades, Hill found 3 patterns that appeared repeatedly. 3 different ways of self-sabotage. 3 different ways of blocking your own wealth without realizing you are doing it. And the most unsettling part is this. These 3 types of person are not lazy. They are not without talent. They are not people without desire. They are people who try, who search, who consume content, take courses, read books, watch videos exactly like this one. But they have something installed inside that keeps sabotaging everything. And the first type is the most common of all. The first type, the drifter. This is the person with no direction, no clear purpose, no truly defined goal. And because of that, they live in a permanent state of mental dispersion. Now think about this carefully. Have you ever known someone like this? Or better yet, have you ever been this person yourself? The drifter is not someone who does not try. That is the great misunderstanding about this type. The drifter tries. They just try several things at the same time. They think about starting a business, but at the same time, they are researching investments and also considering going back to school, and also thinking about switching careers entirely, and also watching courses on digital marketing, and also looking into real estate. You recognize the pattern. Every time a new idea arrives, the focus on whatever was being done before gets divided. And after a while, there is no focus on anything at all. There is only a permanent state of considering options, considering paths, considering possibilities, but never truly deciding. And here's what makes this type so painful to recognize. The drifter is always busy. There's always something happening. They are always researching, studying, consuming content about growth and success. But when you look at what actually changed in the last 12 months of their life, nothing concrete, because busy and productive are not the same thing. And the gap between those 2 words is exactly where the drifter gets lost every single day. Think about a practical example. Two people start the same year with the same goal: build an independent source of income. The first person spends the entire year researching options. They watch hundreds of hours of content. They buy courses on multiple subjects. They arrive at December knowing far more than they knew in January. But having built nothing, the second person chooses a path in the first month. Not the perfect path, just a path. And they work on it consistently for the entire year. By December, they have a result. Not a grand result, not the final dream, but a real result. And more importantly, they have direction. And with direction, progress becomes inevitable. Without direction, all the knowledge in the world produces nothing. This is why Napoleon Hill said with such clarity, "Definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement, not effort, not talent, clarity of where you are going." Because without that clarity, your energy divides itself across 10 different directions. And energy divided across 10 directions goes nowhere. It simply creates the sensation of movement without the actual movement, and that false sensation of progress is what keeps the drifter trapped for years without realizing it. Because at the end of each day, they feel like they did something. They researched, they studied, they learned, but they built nothing. And building is the only verb that changes results. But there is a second type, more silent, and in many cases, more dangerous. Because unlike the first one, this person actually knows what they want. They have the goal, they have the plan, they have the knowledge required to begin. But they do not act. This is the doubter. And what makes this profile so difficult to identify is that the doubter never appears to be afraid. They appear to be careful. They appear to be responsible. They appear to be waiting for the right moment. But what actually happens looks like this. An opportunity arrives. The doubter recognizes it immediately and then begins to analyze. They research everything about the subject. They watch videos. They read articles. They talk to people who have done it. They build spreadsheets. They make projections. And when all that preparation is finished, they begin preparing to prepare, because a new question appeared, and they need to research just a little more, and a little more, and a little more, until the opportunity has passed. And the doubter looks at that and thinks, "It is a good thing I did not jump in. Look at what happened afterward," and they use that outcome as confirmation that waiting was the right call. But here's what they never see. They do this with every single opportunity. The one that went wrong, good thing I waited. The one that went right, good thing I did not enter. It could have gone wrong. The doubter always finds a justification for not acting, not because they are being dishonest with themselves, but because the fear they carry is so perfectly disguised as logic that they genuinely believe they are being prudent. Think about a real example. You know someone who has been saying they are going to start a business for years. They study the market. They analyze competitors. They calculate the capital needed. They build the business plan. They talk to other entrepreneurs. But they never open it. Something is always missing. The timing is not right. The economy is not favorable. They need to save a little more first. They need to learn one more thing before they are ready. That is the doubter in action. And the tragedy is not that they never opened the business. The tragedy is that they spent years fully prepared for something that never happened, and those years do not come back. Hill framed this in a way that no one else has managed to match. Indecision is the seedling of fear. Hold that image for a moment, a seedling. When you delay a decision, you are not simply postponing it. You are planting something that grows, because every time you do not act when you should, the fear of acting becomes a little stronger. And the next day, it becomes a little stronger still. until the simple idea of deciding creates enough anxiety that staying still becomes the most comfortable option available, and comfortable becomes the enemy of everything that could have been built. And then there is the third type. This one actually starts. Unlike the other two, this person takes action. This person takes the first step, and often the second and third as well, but never arrives. This is the quitter, and the quitter is perhaps the most painful of the three profiles to talk about, because this person feels the cost up close. The drifter never really entered the process. The doubter never stepped far enough into the game to feel the real difficulty. But the quitter entered. They invested time. They invested money. They invested energy. And at some point along the way, they stopped and then started something else and invested time, money, and energy again and stopped again. And that cycle of a starting and stopping is what defines the life of the quitter. But here's the point most people miss about this profile. The quitter does not stop because they are weak. They stop because nobody prepared them for what happens in the middle of every real process. Let me show you what actually happens in the middle of any serious building process. At the beginning of any real project, there is enthusiasm. You are excited. The idea is new. The possibilities feel endless, and you act with energy that feels inexhaustible. But then comes what Hill called temporary adversity. Results take longer than expected. Difficulties are greater than calculated. The feedback you receive is harder to hear than you were prepared for. And something very specific happens in the mind of the quitter at that point. They interpret this phase as a signal that they chose the wrong path, a signal that maybe this is not for them, a signal that a better option is waiting somewhere else. So they leave and start something else. And when that something else reaches the same difficult phase, they leave again. Think about someone you know who has tried 5 different businesses in the last 5 years. Drop shipping, then affiliate marketing, then selling on social media, then a franchise, then an online course. And it is not that all 5 options were bad choices. Many people have built real wealth with every single one of those. The problem was not the choice. The problem was that in none of them did that person stay long enough to get through the hard period and reach the other side. Because every real process has a hard period. Every business goes through a moment when the numbers do not work. Every skill has a stage where you seem worse than when you started. Every investment has a phase where you look at your results and feel the urge to exit. And it is precisely at that moment that the quitter exits. And what separates them from the 5% is one thing only. The 5% keeps going, not because they do not feel the same discomfort, but because they understood that discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are getting somewhere. Hill said it in a way that has stayed recorded in history for over a century. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Simple, brutal, and completely true. Now I need you to stop for a moment, not to think about who you know that fits these profiles. Think about yourself with real honesty, because it is very easy to watch a description like this and immediately think of someone else. That friend who starts everything and finishes nothing. That family member who talks about changing but never does. That coworker who is always analyzing but never decides. But what about you when you look at the last 3 years of your financial life? Do you have a clear direction of where you are trying to go? Or are you always considering options without committing to any of them? Have you been acting on the opportunities that have appeared in front of you? Or have you been waiting for the perfect moment that never quite seems to arrive? Have you stayed in processes long enough to see real results? Or have you been leaving exactly when things start getting difficult? And before you answer, notice something important. Most people identify with one of these profiles more than the others, but many people move between them, depending on the area of their life. You might be a doubter with investments but a quitter in business. You might be a drifter in your career but execute well in other areas. The profile is not fixed, but the pattern it creates in your results is remarkably consistent. And the most important thing right now is not to feel bad about recognizing yourself in one of them. The most important thing is to understand that seeing the pattern is the first step to breaking it, and that is exactly what comes next. If you identified with any of these profiles, one thing needs to be absolutely clear. This is not a character flaw. This is not a lack of intelligence. This is not destiny. It is a pattern. And patterns can be broken, but there is a detail that most people miss when they reach this part. A pattern cannot be broken simply by wanting to break it. Wanting is not enough. You have to replace the old pattern with a new one. And replacement does not happen overnight. It happens through deliberate decisions, repeated consistently over time. And for each of the three types, the direction of that change is different. If you recognized yourself in the drifter, the change begins with a decision that is going to feel uncomfortable at first. You are going to have to choose, not the 10 options. One. And the problem the drifter has with that is that choosing one option feels like closing all the others, and closing the others feels like loss. But here's what Hill discovered about the most successful men he studied. Not one of them arrived by pursuing 10 paths at the same time. Every single one of them at some point looked at the available options, chose one, and put everything they had into that direction. And what seemed like a limitation became their greatest advantage, because energy concentrated in one direction is infinitely more powerful than energy divided across 10. In practical terms, this means the following. Take every option you are currently considering, every course you are thinking of taking, every business you are thinking of starting, every path you are researching right now. Write them all down and choose one. Not the perfect one, the one you are going to pursue. And then, for a minimum of 12 months, every decision you make gets filtered through one single question. Does this bring me closer to the goal I chose, or does it take me further away? If it takes you further away, it does not get your time. If it brings you closer, it does. That simple, that difficult, because every week something is going to appear that seems more interesting. Every week an opportunity is going to arrive that looks better than the one you chose. And the real test for the drifter is not the choosing. It is keeping the choice when the temptation to switch shows up. If you recognize yourself in the doubter, the change requires something different. It requires learning to act before you feel ready. Because the doubter is never going to feel completely ready. That feeling does not arrive with more research. It does not arrive with more preparation. It only arrives through action. And Hill had a specific observation for this. He said that most failures come from people who had the opportunity to act, but waited too long to make the decision. So the practical exercise for the doubter is this. For every decision you are currently postponing, there is a smaller version of that decision, a version you can take today. If you want to start a business, but you are waiting to have more capital, more knowledge, more certainty before you move, the smaller version is this. Have one conversation with someone who is already doing what you want to do. Today, not more research, not another spreadsheet, one conversation. Act on the smallest possible version of the decision you've been delaying, because that small action does two things simultaneously. It produces real information that no amount of research can produce, and it breaks the cycle of inaction that feeds the fear. And fear, as Hill identified, does not grow through action. It grows only through the absence of it. And if you recognized yourself in the quitter, what you are about to understand is going to change the way you see every process you enter from this point forward. The problem of the quitter is not a lack of strength. The problem is that they exit precisely before the the point where things begin to shift, and that is not a figure of speech. It is documented. Hill identified this in dozens of cases, people who abandoned projects just steps away from the result they had been working toward. And perhaps the most famous example is the story of the gold mine. A man invested everything he had into a gold mine. He dug for months, found nothing, gave up, sold his equipment to an experienced miner. That miner brought in an engineer to assess the site. The engineer pointed to a spot 3 feet from where the first man had stopped. The gold was there, 3 feet. Hill used that story to illustrate one of the most consistent laws he found across his entire research. Every great achievement came from someone who did not quit when most people would have. Not because they did not feel the urge to quit, but because they understood that difficulty was not a signal to stop. It was a signal that they were getting close. So the exercise for the quitter is this. For every project you are currently thinking of walking away from, ask one question before you leave. Am I stopping because this genuinely no longer makes sense? Or am I stopping because it got hard? If the answer is because it got hard, stay for 30 more days. Just 30. And see what happens. Because in most cases, the point of greatest difficulty and the point of breakthrough are the same point. You just cannot tell which one it is from the inside. Now you understand the 3 patterns. The drifter, who has energy but no direction. The doubter, who has direction but no action. The quitter, who has action but no persistence. And notice what is missing from each one. Not one of them has all 3 elements working at the same time. Direction, action, persistence. The 5% are not more intelligent. They do not have more talent. They were not born into better circumstances. They simply have all 3 elements functioning together. And when those 3 elements function together, the result becomes inevitable, not immediate, not easy, inevitable. Hill saw this repeated in hundreds of cases across 20 years of research, without exception. The ones who built real wealth were not the ones who had the best ideas. They were not the ones who had the most knowledge. They were the ones who had direction, acted on it, and refused to stop when the road got difficult. And that combination, simple as it sounds, is rarer than most people realize. Because most people have one of the 3, some have 2. Very few have all 3 consistently, and the ones who do change their lives every time. In the end, it is not about which of the 3 types you are. Everyone has been at least one of them at some point in their life. The real question is something else entirely. Are you going to keep being one? Because now you have seen the pattern. And when you truly see a pattern, there is no going back to pretending you have not. You can choose to ignore it, but you will know you are ignoring it. And that awareness changes something inside you that cannot be undone. As Hill wrote, in the work that took his entire lifetime to complete, the difference between the people who build wealth and the ones who spend a lifetime trying is not what they do. It is what they keep doing when everything around them says to stop. It is the quiet decision not to accept the old pattern as destiny. And that decision is not made once. It is made every day, in every small choice, in every moment when doubt appears and you act anyway, in every moment when difficulty appears and you continue anyway, in every moment when 10 options appear and you choose one and go deep into it. That is how the pattern breaks, not all at once, gradually, but inevitably. If this video resonated with you, drop a comment below telling me which of the 3 types you identified with most. Drifter, doubter, or quitter. Most people watching this will do nothing, and the simple act of writing that down already puts you ahead of the majority of people who watched this video. If you want to keep following this content, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. See you in the next one.